by Mr. Lupo today.
A roll call, Sal? You want to do a roll call? Oh, all right.
We're just changing the order of things. I'm so confused. I don't know when to stand up.
Almighty Creator, please look down upon this gathering and provide your servants with the wisdom to do what is right and just, and to know that each one of us must strive to overcome our faults, as none of us are perfect. Please, Lord, protect this great country and all those who serve her. We ask these things in thy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Licari, roll call, please.
Mayor Scott Tremblay,
Here.
Vice Mayor William Dittmer,
Here.
Councilwoman Jenny Sorrell,
Here.
Councilman Todd McClary,
Here.
Councilwoman Angel Nally,
Here.
City Attorney James Matthew,
Here.
City Manager Vincent Lupo.
Here.
And this time I wanted to know if there's a motion to approve the workshop minutes from last week.
Motion to approve minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
At this time, we're going to go to comments from the general public. I want to start with Linda Rodriguez, please.
Linda Rodriguez, 5917 Lantern Court. Hi, guys. I never did this, so. I have some comments and some questions. The first comment is with the goals, you guys have goals 1, 2, 3. Under that, you have goals and objectives. Objectives are goals by definition, so you might want to change one of your words. An objective, I looked it up in the dictionary, it is the same. If you've got a goal, you have an objective. So, that's just a comment. On goal 6, the growth that's expected, is that the Kaiser University? Is that what you guys were doing?
And if you direct the questions up here, we'll.
Okay,
we'll
okay, that's fine.
direct traffic.
I just didn't know where the growth was expected. So, was that the Kaiser University, or were there a whole bunch of other things? I was just kind of curious.
The two areas of the city that are going to be major growth is going to be the Kaiser University, and then, of course, where Lennar Homes is going in. So that's the two areas that are
Okay.
really growing in the city
Okay.
right now.
Thank you. The penny for Pasco on page 19. This year was budgeted 563 plus thousand, but next year is only 491,000. So I just didn't know why it was less.
I was going to direct that to Mr. Lupo.
Exactly what line item are we referring to?
It was on page, my thing is page 19, but mine is the older version. It's the capital improvement fund line item revenue budget, the bottom one, penny for Pasco revenue total. 19 budget is 563,000 on my paper, and then the 2020 proposed is 491. So it's a lot less from the penny for Pasco, so I just didn't know why that was.
I'm not finding you on mine either, so.
Well, we got
Maybe
new
you've been-
ones that might have thrown.
Maybe it's changed then, maybe
Yeah.
mine's an old version, okay, that's fine. The IT department, I guess, is a contract service, from what I understand. But why does, we don't have a budget, we don't have a salary, we don't have any wages, we have nothing in there, but they have a cell phone for $660. Nobody's using a cell phone. It's all the cell phones? Oh, sorry. And I think that was it. I think you guys, because I was here last time and a lot of it was answered last time, so.
So the only other question that you had that we haven't answered yet or addressed was the penny for Pasco?
Yeah,
Differential,
I
we'll
was
figure
just
it out.
curious, and maybe my numbers, like I said, I have an older one and you guys gave out a new one last time, so maybe my number was wrong.
What's that?
I don't see it. I don't see the differential.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. The other person we had sign up from the general public is Mr. Mueller.
Thank you, council and administration, and I'll ask my questions, we can hold them to the end like before. I think it flows better. Appreciate that. I noticed in the CRA fund has about 426K, approximately 5.4 employees have been allocated in personnel costs. I'm just wondering if, I know we're trying to drive that down. At some point in time, if individuals are gonna manage that or attribute value to managing projects, at some point in time, it might behoove us to consider adding a staff for full-time administration there, rather than having 5 people allocated to that, little bits of things. It's just an observation. Also, I did some checking with the inflation rate. That's been averaging about 2 to 1.9 this year, and I know that we've got 5% allocated for catch-up from a previous year that they did not have basically raises. There's no obligation to make catch-up, so it's just an opportunity there. It's not a lot of money, it's just an observation there again. Also, I did not see any specific line item for CAC, maybe to fund their opportunities and stuff, to give them a small budget to address the things that they need to work with. You might consider that. Also, all ad hoc committees that we've discussed, my suggestion would be possibly to bring them, at least on a quarterly basis, to provide reporting back to this council so that you know where they stand with their projects that they're working with. Also, behoove us to look at using our ERP system to create a monthly financial review at maybe the last meeting of the month for the previous year-to-date activities. Would go a long way to understanding where we are and tracking to actuals and whether we're making progress toward our goals. I know that it's easy to raise revenues, and we have an obligation here to try to manage that to the best of our abilities, but it's also hard to cut costs, and you know, that's a difficult task that you guys are challenged with, and I understand those things as well. Also, I noted an item in the approval, or in the package, where the city manager can move money between funds, or actually between departments, without council approval. I think you might want to give consideration to that so that
No
you
way.
have an awareness of what's moving around in the funds as well. And there's one more question I have, and I'll save it for the next.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. Did you guys have anything?
No.
Mr. McCleary?
The only thing I have is, we did talk about it, and I didn't see it in this package, was a breakdown of the legal fees. I know last time we had the discussion, there's gonna be a line item breakdown of the legal fees, because it wasn't all Jim had mentioned, this isn't my entire salary, there was other items attached to that. I just wanted to see that breakdown.
We certainly can put together something for you, Councilman, a list of the various funds distributed for legal. Most of our departments have consultation with respect to legal events, so we'll be happy to do that for you.
Good. Anyone else have anything else? Okay. At this time, I wanted to see if there was a motion to approve the agenda for the workshop.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to council business, which is just gonna be the workshop for draft. And I'm gonna open it to Mr. Lupo for introduction.
Jocelyn, what are the next dates for, our presentations?
We don't have any more workshop dates set. We have the hearing set for September 4th and September 19th.
So the hearings will be set for September 4th and September 19th. That will be our major thrust forward. Right now, there's no action simply required on your draft budget. Move forward, we'll answer the questions, and we'll come back with the presentation for the hearings on those 2 dates are required. Anything else that you want to?
No, I was comfortable with most of the questions that were discussed last time. Most of them were answered. I didn't really have anything else major. I wanted to reset this for 2 reasons. One, so there were general public could reach out to us after they watched the meeting, and if they had any concerns, we could address any of those. So that was the main reason I wanted to reset the workshop for tonight. I didn't know if there were any other follow-up questions or concerns. I didn't know if there were any follow-up questions or discussions within council. I was going to go around.
No, I didn't actually. Again, thank you, staff, for a nice job with the budget. The only thing that I have are the questions I asked last week, and that was just about clarifying a few different things that were in place. So I'm very happy with the way we've moved forward.
Do you have anything?
Actually, this was brought to my attention regarding the CRA fund. I believe we all have a copy of this, and it was the way the CRA fund was presented last year. Is there any way we could do an addendum to reconcile expenditures solely with the CRA fund the way this previous budget was done, or is that not practical?
Yes, we spoke with Andrew about that to see
Okay.
if we could get, because we structured the budget a little differently this year than what you've seen in past budgets. And we used to isolate each fund, and you could easily
And it makes it
compare
hard
revenues
for,
and expenditures.
The apples to apples comparison. I
Right.
know there's extra work associated with it, and I
Yeah.
do appreciate it, but if we could do, especially since the CRA fund is such a hot item on everyone's agenda, I'd like to just make sure where we are with that and how it earns across. I think that would be great and
Yes.
beneficial to all.
Yes, we can do that.
Thank you so much.
Just a quick question. Just a quick question.
Of course.
On the CRA, we have worked for the past 3 years to decrease their dependency on salaries, and you've gone from 63 to 24.
It's a little bit more than that. I believe it's we've gone from 63, this last budget was down to 26, and now we'll be under 20, and I believe it's at 18 or 19%.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know, the public to understand that we have decreased in the last 3 years from 63% to 26%, and now we're
No.
going to be less than 20% dependency for salaries from the CRA.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I hope the public heard that.
Mr. Colombo?
Bill Colombo, 7810 Chaska Street. Just in line with what you were saying, you're talking percentages and percentages or percentages. Over a period of time, the amount of money going into the CRA has gone up. So even if you kept the dollar amount the same, the percentage would go down. I'm not saying that you haven't pulled dollars amount, and I'm sure you have those dollars amounts in front of you. And I know you have pulled dollar amounts out, but I just, when you're talking percentages, I can say the last time I did a budget, the revenue to the CRA was like $750,000, and this year it's $1.3 million. So there's a lot more money that's going into the CRA as well as the general fund, because our appraised value is going up, and what's going into the CRA is coming out of the general fund. You all know that, but just when you have more money, the fund gets bigger, the percentages get smaller. So just throwing that out there. But yes, Mr. Loop, I realize you have reduced the dollars too.
Thank you, Mr. Colombo.
If I might, just for
Yes.
general edification, this was prepared before we actually prepared this budget. In FY 15-16, the actual personnel costs attributed to CRA was $781,963, or approximately 63%. In FY 16-17, it was $641,774, approximately 55%. In FY 17-18, it was $567,213, and in FY 18 and 19 was brought down to $306,880. So percentage-wise, they pretty much track 63, 55, 41, 26, and now approximately under 20. So the numbers are much lower. And that was a goal that we set, and so far we're achieving, and we intend to do more later on.
One quick question, and I appreciate, the reduced draws on the CRA. For the building department, we seem to have flip-flopped the salaries withdrawal from the CRA. Last year, it was substantial portion came from the general fund, less from CRA. This year, we seem to have flip-flopped them. Is that just trying to balance it out? Obviously, we've reduced the entire burden on the CRA, which is a good thing, but is there logic behind it beyond trying to balance it out?
Essentially, that's what we're doing. We're trying to resolve the differences between the two and to get the program back on a level playing field. And that's what we intend to do across the board on all the departments, is to get everything back on a level playing field so that we can, in fact, continue to reduce dependency on CRA.
So the goal theoretically next year is the building department salaries would be reduced out of the CRA into the general
Correct.
fund.
And just an observation, the city moving forward, we have water bonds that'll be paid off, and we have some other things that'll be paid off, so it'll be much easier in the next coming years to reduce some of that dependency, as we'll have less outgoing money into things that the city owes for that should be paid off by then. Is that correct, Mr. Rupo?
Basically it is, sir. We intend to be as frugal as possible as far as our dispersion, our expenditures are concerned, so that we can conserve funds, so that we can have what can be considered carryover to the following year. The following year's budget will be an entirely different operation, in as much as we're looking at ways to minimize future costs across the board in every single department. That includes an analysis of the work product of those departments to see if we can improve them in a more cost-effective manner.
And that was the chart that we talked about kind of in length at the last meeting, where you had different percentages coming from different funds.
Correct, sir.
I see that there's a couple other people that have joined us that haven't spoken. Any comments on behalf of the fire department?
Not at this time.
Okay. Any comments on behalf of the police department? Ms. Martinez, Dr. Martinez, and the building department. Does anyone else have anything?
Like I said, I was happy. I think the staff did a great job.
Yeah, just, so everybody, it's on? Oh, there you go. You're going to have 2 budget hearings, formal hearings. We've already set the dates, right? Everybody has those dates?
4th and 19th.
At those hearings, you're going to, and I think we're doing this by resolution. It's a different budget format here, so normally we used to do it simply. We might have to change that a little bit, but you're going to pass both of those with 2 readings, and the CRA budget is not going to be a part of that. Okay, the CRA budget is not part of the city budget. It's done by the CRA board. So we do pass a budget in the CRA, though technically we're not mandated to do it. And so that'll be done right after the meeting. There'll be a CRA budget, so they'll be passed separately.
At this time, were there any motions?
Before, I believe we have someone.
Oh, Mr. Colombo, come on up.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more item too, because when you look at the budget and how you're allocating the salaries across departments, if you look at the page 31 of the budget, page 30 and 31, page 30 will show you line item expenditures of administration as salaries, essentially. And if you look at page 32, you will see that the 2019 budget had $335,000 allocated out of the utility department. And this year's budget has almost $100,000 more coming out of the utility department, budgeted at $427,000. So you do have some expenditures that were coming out of the CRA that are now coming out of utility. And the utility department's doing good and there's money there. And the general fund is making more money too. So some of those funds that have been moved out of the CRA, they're still there. The salaries are still there, they're just getting paid from different directions. So just for sake of clarity, thank you very much. You all doing a great job. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Palumbo. Any motions?
Motion to adjourn?
That was quick.
Oh, this.
There we go.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Come on up.
Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue Point. One of the things that I noted, you guys identified several projects that come with it, funds from a revenue source and expenditures for the cost of the work. Is there a way to build that into a report that could effectively manage the revenues and the expenses so that we know where we're at with these projects? I know a lot of them come in where you have to throw the money out first and then you get reimbursed. Some of those work that way. Some of them, we get the money up front and then we have to incur the cost later down the road. But that would give you a tool to manage where you're at with your various projects, and effectively you could even carve out you know, a cost center or a budget code within your ERP system to effectively help manage that and marry those costs together. So I'm thinking, can a project plan tie the money to the work and reflect that back to the council at some future point in time? I think it'd be a good tool for the council to see where we're at, and it keeps everybody on the same page as well. Also, I noticed that there's lots of versions of this budget floating around there in draft and everything else. Is there any way to maintain some kind of version control? And essentially, whatever we settle on, that's the final before this hearing that we need to publish out there that people can look at. And then I know that the last time we spoke, there was some movement around, and what's published out there right now has not been displayed, and it predominantly reflects, I think, some of the investment income and some of those other items on the flow assumptions of costs. So those haven't really been conveyed, but they're out there on the website. Appreciate that. Possibly ability to isolate fixed and variable costs so that you guys can look at opportunities that are variable costs that you can potentially use as an opportunity to drive down cost as well. And if you need a format, I could probably come up with one if somebody would like to have that. And also, there was an approval for $150,000 for the sidewalks. I didn't see the revenues coming into this budget, so we probably need to carve out a line for that and match the cost associated with that for the contract of $136. Okay, so something to consider.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. Did you have anything on that?
I actually have one more thing, since we're getting so close to adjourning. The IT department services, looks like we stayed relatively flat, moved money within the funds, but stayed
Yes.
relatively flat on expenditures year to year. I've been getting a lot of feedback from our residents regarding the website. What in this budget is attributed to the website maintenance and/or upgrade, as the case may be, or is there
Nothing.
any?
No, no, sir.
Is that something that we want to endeavor as a council to upgrade the website, make it more user-friendly, perhaps add more to it? Because what entails the maintenance as we are sitting today is? You?
Got
Okay.
it. Council, please understand that we've tried to do the best we can by keeping the cost as down. Ms. Martinez has been doing absolutely phenomenal job
And it
with
is great for a non-professional, believe me, I don't want to get Jocelyn angry at me.
Just as a note, my husband's a web designer,
Oh,
so
okay.
I already know.
So, but that's something that we'll be looking at internally to do, and very possibly come to council in the very near future with a couple of suggestions. But in the meantime, we'll do the best we can with what we got.
Mr. Palumbo?
I know you guys went through a lot last summer when the old website went kaflooey. And I've also, you know me, I'm in there hunting around, and when you first brought up the new website, you could hardly find anything beyond, like, that happened before June. And I've seen subsequently, I'm sure you've been involved, Sal, and you, in putting things online. There's a lot of historical stuff that's been coming up that wasn't there. So I know it's still a work in process. It is a pretty good design. And, you know, I too would like to see some other things up there. I know the old website, once upon a time, had a link to virtually everything from Taylor Engineering as far as the engineering and the dredging. You know, there's a lot of background stuff. I know you guys got it, either in hard copy or you got it in files. But again, it's staff time to get in there and do that, and get that stuff up. There's a lot of stuff that can be added to the website, but I think the site that's up there is a pretty good framework. It just, obviously, you've got limited staff and limited time.
Yes, sir.
Just wanted to point that out, though. I mean, I appreciate, I have seen stuff showing up, and I'm like, oh, good, there it is, I can find it now. Thank you for the work.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Palumbo. Everyone good with the workshop today? Yeah?
I put my foot in my mouth enough today with Jocelyn, so I'll
No, fair question. I'm sure it could be professionally
Yeah.
done too. It just costs us money, so.
Exactly.
Right.
And
Sure.
when you're in budget is the time, if there's anything to do it, that's the time to do it.
Sure.
But if we have plans forthcoming, then
Any motions?
motion to adjourn.
Any seconds?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, guys. Good meeting.